and welcome to the Dead Unicorn, the Tabletop Role-Playing Game Club. My name is Corey, and I'm here with Tarek! Woo! Bow, bow, bow. Okay. We, every so often, well, on Sundays, we try to make a weekly live stream where we either review some sort of book or do a rewrite of Legend of the Five Rings, and this is our 11th part of our rewrite for Legend of the Five Rings. And
important part.
Yeah, and we got a lot to go through. Oh, yeah. And we go through comments first. Just so you know, a little bit of setup. Here's the book over here, but also we have a document in which we kind of stream of consciousness just write out all of the rules, and it's on my Patreon. And if you go there, you can also grab this document and edit it. Suggest edits and things to the document. Today we're doing squads, mook squads, which is great because our first comment, because we usually, like the first half of our episodes, we usually do comments, and this is no exception. And our first comment is about that exactly. So this comes from Where Did We Go Wrong, our last, part 10. It sounds like when dealing with higher level players, rather than trying to fiddle with dozens of independent minions on the field, it might be better to use the squad mechanic from 317 of the core rulebook. Squads are made up of 2 or more NPCs of the same type, with suggestions of not making them consist more than 6 due to dice pool sizes. The squads have shared strife, which is normal members strife times 3, and once reached will cause them to break, surrender, flee, etc. The shared pool of endurance means members dying off when certain amounts of damage is taken, and the effect of reducing squad actions. They take the same stance as each other and have the same initiative, with the system suggesting you either have squads each have their own actions, make them a big blob of health composure actions that players can whittle down, or if you prefer a simpler version, just having all members of the squad provide the assist action to one guy who takes the actions, just turning him into a more dangerous version of the other minions that slowly loses extra dice as members die off. What just happened? Okay. At the same system suggestion, and at the system suggestion, you can even make squads of adversary level enemies. So 317 in the book, let me just say I hate squad rules in here. I think they're pretty lame, because what they are is just take your squad sheet and just add them all together. And as you fight them, when they get rid of their endurance, now you're going to have to remake your squad sheet again because one of them is gone. And I don't like that.
It's also, again, a generic templating system with very lax or fast and loose rules that aren't very supportive of the DM. You can use the squad rules, but I think in doing so, you're losing some of the uniqueness of having NPCs, and at the same time, you don't have enough rules to actually hard rules to actually make that into something meaningful. It makes me feel like they had the same idea for cohorts in mass battle, and they're just they're not well thought out. They're not cohesive. They're not coherent in a full start to finish.
So we're gonna talk more about this and how we can make squads easier to handle, because this is a lot. Composure is 3 times. You combine all of their endurance, but yet you don't combine all of their endurance, because as endurance goes down, people get knocked off. So really, you're not combining endurance at all. That's a misnomer.
You're still running multiple NPCs.
You can only combine people who have amount of stats. And You can make group actions or all assist one. That's fine. I actually
Yeah, and they even say that there's an upper limit of no more than 6 NPCs in a squad.
So I don't mind them like a group all combining so like their one stat gets really high, so they can actually be a menace to a single
High level
high level
character.
PC. And I've used that before in Mask of the Oni when you fought that giant horde of goblins. I had to use these rules.
Mm-hmm.
And even using those rules, it felt cumbersome. It felt clunky. I had to figure out like how many are left in this squad. How many are left in this squad was my first. Every time I went to a new squad, I was like, how many are left in it? I don't remember.
Yeah, you have to keep some pretty meticulous notes.
Yeah.
At that point.
From the same commenter, same video. Talking about war rules, mass battle rules. The system might not have inbuilt rules for things like that, and we'll see what that is going forward. But there is a reason it suggests just coming up with your own stuff, due to how simple the stuff they made is and the trends they set. Not that you could run taking over the gate by sneaking in. Remember how I said like every time I do mass combat, it kind of devolves into what actually the players want to do rather than the army.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So one of them was taking it over the gate by sneaking. So she's like, just say, not only could you run taking over the gate by sneaking in as just a theme for a regular assault action, as removing the enemy from position can entail as much trying to climb the walls as poisoning their water supply. But almost all the actions they provide set a trend either by being a static TN2 roll or targeting the enemy's vigilance, so you could also sub in a modified thing like Skullduggery check to sneak your troops past the enemy raid, and once again using Tactics Command for the damage once you're past the walls. Maybe reward them letting get extra momentum in taking the position for using this, or letting them spend 2 extra momentum to capture it by using such an unorthodox tactic. When it comes to mass combat, you can almost rule anything as, all right, you can beat their vigilance halved, or meet this check, usually a TN2, by drawing what categories of checks the system allows. Want to stop the enemy from being able to pass through this terrain? Maybe you could have the players do a performance check. Very obviously set up their cohorts to know they'll be attacked. And choose to avoid it, or perhaps something like a command check to quickly set up barricades, destroy other paths and stuff. Like, these are all great additions to the rules that should be in the rules. Like, I applaud you for all of these these creative new ideas. Rules that you're creating to make all of this stuff. This is the kind of stuff I wanted from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like modifying rolls to use this skill instead of that, right? This would be nice. I would love this.
Yeah.
But it's not there in the rules.
Yeah, exactly. It's still stuff that we have to build onto the system in order to get it to work this way. And so again, it's reinforcing the idea that we kind of need to modify this stuff to make it easier for GMs to utilize. And make valuable to their players. That's the other thing.
And just using the rules as written isn't like doing the rules as written is taking over the gate by sneaking in is just a theme of the regular assault action. So you can say whatever it is you want to do. I want to, do this really cool tactic and everything. Okay. Make an assault action. And you who didn't put in all this thought to anything, also make an assault action because you just said you wanted to do an assault.
Yeah.
They're the same. And that's the biggest problem.
And unless you have like a big hex map where you're keeping track of everything and each unit is laid out with each cohort and who's leading each cohort, like they do in like really big interactive events, it's going to be very difficult to keep track of as a singular GM with your players and not have it boil down to exactly that. Just roll an assault action, roll your rally, roll your reinforce, blah, 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 blah. And that's it. It's going to boil down to these just repetitive actions. and the only narration that's going to go into it is what your GM and players are able to creatively come up on the fly. It doesn't boil down to like these intimate, actual, meaningful role play scenarios that I feel like it should be. That's my opinion.
It would be nice if the system gave more active guidance on how to create custom actions. Yes. But when almost every action falls into a handful of categories, how they function, you can start making a ton of custom ones whenever they come up. There's a reason the system always says what it provides are example actions. Yeah, that word example is all over this book. It does heavy fucking lifting.
Yeah. Or sample. They call them samples.
Yeah. Sample actions.
The other issue that I have with the mass battle is it doesn't actually have a something else action. Like if you look at almost every other type of conflict scene, they have rules for something else, right? Like it's what is it called? Movement, positioning, unique action. If you look, almost all of them have unique action, which has a kind of general statement saying, here's how you can do, how a GM can run a skill check for narrative effect.
Mind you,
or for mechanical effect.
Mass Battle doesn't have any of that stuff. There's no unique action here.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
it doesn't have a
assault,
unique
challenge,
action.
rally,
So it assumes that you're only going to use these kind of core features, and that's it for your mass battle.
Yeah.
And again, everything slims down. Like they have all these awesome ideas for how to like maintain the army, how to build it, set it up,
create it.
Create an army, like all the infrastructure and logistics that go into maintaining the army over time. But they don't really have anything for the army to do except for attack, right?
Yeah.
Like there are some like techniques that they implemented later on in the series that come out with like actual interesting things that you can do with your cohorts and stuff, and like how you can support them and give these like meaningful reasons to have things like command and tactics and stuff like that. But that's it. And if what you want to do doesn't fall in one of those little boxes, then
you got to start creating stuff on the fly and just doing stuff. And that's
or have prepared it all ahead of time, and that takes a lot of effort too. Like regardless, it's going to be a headache.
278. In a mass battle actions, in addition to these sample actions, characters can also perform actions created for circumstances by their players and approved by the GM, or actions that have been granted to them by techniques and abilities. I would like sample actions that show me how to do that. How would a technique and ability be used in mass combat? Please show me how. Yeah. Please demonstrate an example of this.
A lot of the common shuji and kata are completely unapplicable in a mass combat because they don't have the saying that it as a blah blah blah.
In mass battle, you can do this and this and this.
Battle. Yeah. So most of them don't do anything unless they have that little blurb that says in a mass combat it does XYZ. So then all of the XP that you've been spending on your character becomes useless. And earlier characters or earlier character like classes don't have access to a lot of those things. So you have to get it outside of that.
There's a question in our chat that's really interesting. Hello guys, any advice on how to use a reverse draw katana? A reverse draw kata. Yeah. What is a reverse draw? Like putting it back in when you're done, when you like you do your strike and then you
return it. That would be actually cool, but I think this is actually referring to an actual Iijitsu cut technique. I forget where it is.
Draw.
But there's one that's called reverse draw.
Let's do
I think it might be
reverse.
I don't remember what. Actually, let me look inside of the kata here. We're in Shadow Empire. I can do that easier.
Reverse draw. Iaido.
Oh, actually, I don't see reverse draw.
Reverse draw Iaido, also known as reverse quick draw form, is a variant of Iaido where the drawer uses the katana using their backhand. This form is designed for close and tight situations, offering less reach than standard Eido. So I'm
Yeah,
assuming
reverse.
instead
So
of
hold on.
doing this, they do this and go
Yes.
and draw it out this way.
Yeah, in reverse grip. But there's an actual technique, Corey. Here, I'm going to put it in the chat in Shadow Empire. That is what they're talking about.
In Shadow Empire?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there is a technique. Oh, because you looked it up in the VTT.
Yeah.
So
I knew it existed. I just didn't remember what book. It's in Path of Waves. And that's exactly it. It's in reverse. You pull it out in reverse grip, which if you're a swordsman in any way, reverse grip is like one of the worst ways to hold a weapon. You're not going to defend yourself well with it. It weakens everything about you. But it is something that you can use really quickly, and there is a historical relevance to the Eido quick draw with that. It just doesn't stay in reverse grip afterwards. You do it for a quick attack and then reverse it into your regular hand.
So katanas have a certain range, and reverse grip can reduce that range greatly, which in normal combat is a bad thing. But like if you are in tight quarters, I can see it working. And the only way it would work. But that's a great question that allowed us to look that up. Path of Waves, page 89.
Yeah.
Reverse draw kata.
You draw a sheathed weapon in one-handed grip. You suffer the disoriented condition because you're not using your sword right. If you succeed, your opponent suffers physical damage equal to your damage, your weapon's deadliness +1 for every 2 bonus successes. So I mean, it's pretty straightforward on like when to use this. The other thing is the TN to hit is equal to your target's vigilance instead of their regular just TN2, which makes this a lot harder. And it's an attack, movement, and scheme action. So it's gonna ensure that you can't do a lot of other stuff on your turn as part of this. If this damage causes your target to become incapacitated, they take a critical strike, which I think a lot of the Iijitsu cuts have that proviso with the opportunities. Using this effectively is going to be like Corey said, if you're in a pinch in a tight square, somebody's like grappling you and you need to strike at them, or actually you can't do it in grappling. It has to be at range 1, which most of the other Iijitsus are at range 1 to 2. So this is close quarters, but not core. And
it's a rank 4.
It's rank 4. You suffer disoriented, which means you will be at a penalty on your next turn because you can't get rid of that after doing this action. And yeah, I don't know. It's very hard. This, in my mind, is very hard to pull off and be effective, but it is like a last ditch effort. There are probably better uses of your Iijitsu cut techniques because there's like 4 of them in total. But this could be something useful.
I would make this a totally different kata. I would make it so the main use of it is that you can use it as at range 0, because katanas you can't use at range 0. They're a range 1 weapon. So if someone comes at you in close range with a knife, you can use reverse grip to make your katana range 0, and that would be the main reason to use it.
Yeah.
But hey, I mean, suffer the disorient condition and deal physical damage equal to the weapon's deadliness +1 for every 2 bonus successes at rank 4. I mean, if you want to waste your XP.
If you want to waste your action too, because the TN to hit is going to be really high with somebody's vigilance. It's going to be like
and
4.
Still, you have to do it. Yeah, and you have to do it at range 1 still, not range 0. It makes no sense.
Yeah, it's not very good.
It's not great.
I thought a lot of the Iijitsu in Path of Waves were very underpowered and very under thought. It's like they think Ronin don't know how to fight in the Iijitsu duels. Like they're just doing whatever and then seeing what sticks. Like,
okay. Last comment by the same commenter on the same video. It's a big one, and I don't know if I'm going to read all of this, but we're going to read some of this. Well, fatigue is what you gain from warding off attack. It's how you dodge, parry, counter-strike. Yep. So armor reduces fatigue gain because it is easier to fend off a lethal blow when you have a shield. I mean, if I'm wearing armor and someone's coming at me with a sword, I still feel like I'm going to parry or dodge and not just like let it whack off my armor.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm weird that way.
Yeah, and
so
you have to
here's the thing.
Also remember this: they're not like knights in plate armor here. These are people in like wooden armor and leather, and that's not going to be as like, you still want to protect yourself.
Here's the thing: if I am dodging and I'm parrying or counter striking, how does and that creates my fatigue? How does armor make less fatigue to dodge, parry, or counter strike?
Yeah,
it's hitting my armor too at the same time.
It should 100% either increase increase the TN to like threaten you, right? Or it should reduce the amount of critical damage that you're about to take.
Something like that.
That's when armor should be.
Or make it harder for you to get inside your armor to make that critical strike.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
And she actually likes this. She's like, later on, that said, armor increases the amount of opportunity needed to critically strike. Now that's a fun idea. If in some weird ways.
I knew it. Yeah. That I agree. That was the idea that I think we got really excited about.
But yeah, like, that's the kind of pushback I get from, armor reducing fatigue doesn't make sense to me, but it does to some people. And I get that, like, people in plate mail armor, if you see them fight with swords, they just kind of lean into it and like it's basically the first to fall down and then you can like push your sword through it.
I mean, when two plate armored knights come up to each other, it devolves really quickly into half swording and like bashing each other with the pommel or something, or into core where they're trying to trip the other person and then pull out a knife and stab in between the under the armpit, in the neck grooves. It becomes that kind of a fight. Or it becomes a fight where you're swinging around massive hammers like a
trying
Lucerne
to peel it off.
Trying to like bash their head in so they get a concussion and they won't fight anymore.
Like,
that when you're in that level of armor, then it becomes a way different kind of fight.
Anyways, we have so many comments and we can't. I mean, thank you, Chibi Patel, for your way in-depth comments.
Engagement.
Yeah,
and like we love that. We love that.
But we got to move on. Otherwise, we'll be doing this all day.
Keep engaging with us. If you want to keep that conversation going, maybe jump in the Discord and share your thoughts. We can get a whole conversation going there.
All right. Our next comment, and I'm looking through comments from all of my channel, which includes all of like every video. And thank you for commenting on all of my stuff. And especially like, I got a ton of engagement on the initiative video, and that was so great. Yeah. And I had a bunch of fun conversations there. Let's go. Chibi Potato also had something on our live review of Celestial Realms. Pushback on the Asahina Envoy, which, I called mind control.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it kind of is mind control.
She's not having it. Just like a lot of people aren't having it. Just like Sasha's not having it.
Yeah.
I see that. I understand your reluctance. When I say mind control, you think of a supernatural power instantly. When I say mind control, all I mean is you roll a die and suddenly your character has to do an action that they didn't want to do before.
Or would not have done.
Yeah. And my level for this, like, I'm not as mad if it's like NPCs. If it's like, I made an NPC do something. It's like, if you ever played old Knights of the Old Republic Star Wars and you start like doing persuasion on people, they'll say lines like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Every time I talk to you, I give you more stuff. And it shuts it. Like,
Diplomancy, yeah.
It's
It's the whole.
diplomancy.
It's diplomancy, yeah.
But
The magical ability to talk and get people to do the things that you want,
I
regardless of how they feel.
if you reverse that and do it against players, suddenly I'm being unreasonable as a game master. And that's my
It can breed resentment really quickly.
that's
Like,
my
really
bar
quickly.
right there. That's my bar.
Mhm.
If I do that against a player character, how would that player character feel? Would that player character feel like I'm taking agency away from their character? If the answer is yes, it's a bad rule.
Yeah.
And it's mind control. And that's pretty much all I got to say about that. Moving up. This comes from our part 2, remaking opportunities. Idea for opportunities: chi. During an encounter, you can accumulate opportunities and spend them on big actions. I've done kind of something like this before, but the thing is if you're able to like bank your opportunities and then use them on whatever you want later, that takes away from the opportunities you get from individual roles. That it gets rid of that spontaneity.
Yeah.
That's why I don't mind like taking opportunities and putting them in a pool of just unspent opportunities that when you get to a certain threshold, you get a benefit. Like, hey, I've just banked 10 opportunities. I get a void point for that. But you can't bank them to just like on a future roll be like, I increased the range by 9 because I banked 9 opportunity. Like,
yeah.
So like, it's a great idea that I have thought of before, and it just needs that kind of fine tuning that to keep game balance.
Yeah, it's tough with things like that. It really is. We gotta really play test how that works in like a real world scenario, or in game scenario.
Moving on to this comes from rewriting the rules. Is this from part 1? I think this is from part 1. A really interesting idea. I'm looking forward to the whole series. Well, thank you. I hope you enjoy it. But NPCs seem really like a really weird place to start. It's got to start with dice, hasn't it? That's the core of the entire game, and strife and opportunities arising from it and everything else that follows. Whatever you might do with NPCs or anything else arises from that. Well, dice are one of the things we can't change.
Yeah. The whole system's revolves around this specific setup for dice, and so if we want to keep that feeling involved, we can't change the dice.
Yeah, exactly.
It changes the entire system. Like, everything else changes around it.
If we fiddle with the dice, who's going to make those dice? Oh, we made a homebrew rule of a version of this version of Legend of the Five Rings. Well, what about the strange dice? Well, we have our own version of those strange dice. What? Where do I get those? Like, the dice have to be a pillar that is unmoved, and
yeah, it's a structural beam.
Yeah,
yeah. It's load bearing. We can't really change it.
From the second video, same commenter, a great discussion. Feels like this should have been the first one, but really some interesting takes. Very good. I counted taking stances into account. I assume you chose stances in part based on the opportunities that open up to you. Any dice rolls that have at least 45 available opportunities. Yeah. The more you rank up and learn new techniques, more depending on what weapon you're using, what action you're doing, 45 plus. It's absolute insanity. We thank you for noticing. It is one of the bigger problems. Okay. I think that's all of it. At least all of the comments for these live streams.
Everything else we love you for, but we can't jump in on this one.
I mean, watch my video on fashion. Watch my video on initiative. Watch my video on the lying darkness. Oh God, please.
And tell us all of your feelings about it,
About the
please.
lying darkness. It's
I
like
love the Lighthouse.
it's a great video,
It's my favorite.
and it's got under 100 views.
Yeah, I'll keep watching it on repeat. Okay.
Oh, thanks. Okay. We got to get to, what are we doing? Mobs, minions, and morale.
Yeah.
I guess we should go to the what is it? The mob rules again.
Sample NPC.
Yeah, go to the NPC section. Where is it?
I'm just gonna put it here and say, we're gonna put this as heading 2 NPC changes.
So NPC changes. These are only going to be for minions. I mean, you can have. I don't like the idea of adversary mobs. That doesn't make any sense to me. But
Yeah.
we have our new. We kind of have some of our minion NPC rules, which include they take one hit and they're gone. Right?
Yeah.
So if we put these into groups, we have minion groups here at the bottom. Minion groups minion groups, combat and political rankings go up for every doubling of the numbers in the group. Every attack that reduces the number of minions in a group by 1, +1 for every bonus success. So you can just like go into a minion group and go, bam, and take them all out with like a single strike.
Take a whole bunch of them out. Yep.
Right?
I'm gonna move that up, by the way. That's what I'm doing.
Where did you put that? Oh, you moved
Just
it
a little bit further up.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. I think this is a really strong rule for minion groups, but
It simplifies things very much so. But we still need to add some detail here.
I want to give all minions on the board, no matter who they are, what they're doing, I want them to have a group morale. Right? And like if you're fighting one minion group and that minion's group breaks and runs away, what happens to the minion group next to it?
Probably should also be considering running.
Breaking and running away, and then it just kind of...
Yeah.
So making an entire battlefield have one morale for all minions makes a lot of sense. So
I wouldn't say for all minions. I'd say for each side of minions, because if let's say you have 3 different groups, right? The Dokugeru and the Boseki are all fighting our characters. Well, we start beating up the Dokugeru, and the Boseki now feel emboldened, but the Dokugeru are like, "This is too much. We gotta break."
I 100% agree for each side of the combat, and I think that as long as an adversary on their side remains, that they are bolstered, or if you take them out, they like lose half their morale or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right?
I think if they're still around, they have a higher threshold before they break, right? As long as they have one adversary on the field with them. Like instead of being like they start to break or make a check to see if they break at 50% morale. Maybe if they have a adversary, then it's like they need to be brought down to 25% morale.
So this is a little bit like Mass Battle.
Yeah.
But like, what do they have in Mass Battle instead of? They have attrition.
I think it's actually called morale and attrition.
No, it's discipline and panic.
Discipline and panic. There you go.
So we can use the word morale. So we can make NPCs, all NPC minions on one side of a battle have a shared composure called morale. Right? And did I spell it wrong? Oh yeah. Okay,
No,
sure.
I just wanted to...
It's a keyword, baby. when any minion takes strife, that strife is added to a pool which is
compared against their morale.
Compared against the side's morale. Exactly. If morale is, or I'm sorry, if the total strife from all minions is greater than morale, the minions surrender or run.
Attempt to run, yeah. Attempt to flee.
Attempt to flee. I like that. Right? That makes sense.
Yeah. I think greater than morale. I think at a certain point, like, either morale needs to be a rating that isn't based on the groups, like, each one of them has 6 composure, so the total group of 3 mob is 18 morale. It needs to be a set value, right? So, or it needs to not have to be greater than the morale.
So Chibi Potatoes in the comment, she's like, system already has morale. We talked about this. You were the first comment that we talked about, and we talked about minion mobs and squads. And here in our new rules, like, they don't have endurance. They take 1 hit and they're gone.
Yeah. They don't have... Yeah, exactly. We're not using those stats.
Yeah, right here. We got you. We got you. We're right there with it. We're on the page. Because we're comparing this to what we're creating, and we see the flaws in this NPC squad rules. In my opinion, it's not very good. I don't know about Tarek, but
yeah,
I've used it. I've used it and had so much frustration.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree. They're not robust enough, and they're also too complex at the same time.
So here,
I don't think they need to be that intense.
We're not doing mobs. So what is a morale? How do you calculate morale? Calculating morale should be something like, because we don't care about what an individual minion strife is. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Right? So strife might be equal to the number of minions, and double that if there is an adversary on their side, because the adversary bolsters them. So it could be I think Tarek is frozen.
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'm here. Yeah, I was about to change the font type, and then I thought, oh shit, should I? Because I might freak out Corey. But I hate Arial, so I want to change it.
Go for it.
Because it just reads easier.
There you go. Verdana. Okay, if you want to implement something from mass combat to group combat, you could take the rules where its leader gets beat up from various sources. The group takes panic morale damage. I mean, it's kind of like that, but we still want to make a skirmish feel like a skirmish and not like mass combat. We want minions to come out and you can engage in them one by one or in tiny little groups. But yeah, I think so. Yeah. So calculating morale, let's say morale. And this keeps it so if you have a lot of minions on one side, like, it doesn't get overwhelming. Morale, because if you're like running strife for each individual minion, that's weird. And if you're running strife for each individual squad, that's still weird. Morale, like the way they are here or break, they should all either, like, if a minion squad breaks, what's the minion squad next to them gonna do? Not break? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Of course they're so morale should be like equal to the number of minions, and double if there is an adversary on their side. This can double again if the adversary has an advantage
In leadership?
Yeah. For leadership or commanding people, etc.
Yeah. Number of minions overall in all groups.
Yeah, just on the side in that skirmish.
Yeah. So if there's like 30 of them, then there's 30 morale.
Yeah.
And that morale drops. That morale is affected then by strife the group takes and hits basically that they absorb. So if you've eaten like 7, like say you have 30 on your team, 7 of them have already been killed by your group, and you've delivered like, let's say 8 strife.
Yes.
Then 15 of them is already eaten up.
Morale
For the
can
morale.
drop as minions leave combat or are rendered
Incapacitated.
yeah, or not incapacitated. I don't want to use that word. Rendered
The word we should
non-combatants.
not be used.
Non-combatants.
Rendered non-combatants. Yeah. As well as by strife, right? Because we said up above, the total strife from all minions is greater than morale.
Yeah, yeah.
So if their strife level meets or exceeds that number, they're gone.
Which can just be added to a minion strife pool. Please don't calculate strife individually because that's stupid. I should put this back up on the screen. So people know what we're doing for changes. Yeah. Okay. So a minion group, so you can have individual minions attack. Each minion takes one hit. Once they take one hit, they're finished. But you can get rid of all minions on the board by strifing them out, and then they all just start to panic and flee. Not to be confused with mass battle panic. But if there's an adversary on the side, the adversary bolsters them by boosting their morale.
And if they lose their adversary, I think it should be halved instantly.
Yeah, all bonuses go away. Yeah. Yep.
And then this needs to be on its own line as well.
So yeah, mind you, this makes players want to prioritize the adversary, but they're going to do that anyways. As soon as there's a big bad on the table, everybody's going to be like, ignore the ads and just attack the big main bad. That's literally how most combats work in almost every role-playing game I've ever played.
I'd also like to say that if there's not an adversary present, they might break before it gets to the full
Nah.
morale stat.
Why?
Because, like you said earlier, if half of their guys died, do they really want to stay and continue fighting? If one of the group of minions has been killed off, wouldn't they want to run at that point?
Well, here's the thing: as more of them get killed off, as more of them get killed off, their morale goes down, right? And if they've been making rolls, they'll be getting strife from rolls.
Yes,
And once that goes like this, once more people are killed off the strife they have, or their strife gets over the amount of people they have, they're just gonna break.
but they don't roll for combat. Remember, they spend for combat
Oh yeah,
with
yeah,
our
yeah.
combat actions.
But
So what I
You're
suggest
you're right,
is
but
if there's not an adversary on the field, the value, even if there's 30 on the field, right? The value of their morale is 15. So if they lose half their units, they instantly break without having to gain any strife. I think that makes sense. If
I don't
there's
know.
10 people
I'm
against
on the
your one
fence
guy,
about that one. I'm really am.
why? There's not a reason for them to keep fighting if their morale,
I
if
think
their leader
I
isn't
think
present.
because we're giving people special abilities that give them strife, and the players can give them strife. So I think that will just be a natural balancer for that. I really do.
All right. I mean, I see your point. I still think that it makes sense to have them halved because then it naturally kind of balances itself out if you're focused on just beating people up straight up. Um, that being said, you have a point to it could unbalance these minions very quickly.
How about
Um,
this? If a minion, if a side, if a side has less minions and has no adversary and less minions than another side, then they break, or they take one strife every turn like that.
I think that fits. Yeah.
Because even though they're outnumbered, they'll like it doesn't matter how many people go down as long as they're outnumbering the other side, they're going to keep going.
Yeah. So then, how do minions attack?
Oh, you just say
think the
that
next.
you just say, "Hey, this one's attacking you," and then you roll your defense roll against that. We're going to do a mock combat next week. We're going to do
Cool.
that. We're
Yeah.
going to have a
Because we
play
have our
test.
little minion stat block, and I think that
Yes.
conscripted Ashigaru.
So I'm going to write that right over here. If one side has more combatants, whoa, hey. If an opposing side has more combatants, minions take +1 strife per round. And that makes sense to me. That sounds right. Yeah, it adds narrative pressure being harried from all sides into the system proper. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. It'd be pretty historically accurate. A mob of troop marches up to a mob of troops. They battle for 12 hours. 6 people die on one side. They panic and run away. I mean, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But are we being historically accurate or are we being epic? We want an epic fight. PCs rock. They kill people with one, they kill a giant group with just one strike. I mean, L5R is not known for realism.
Yeah.
That's
but it also is kind of realistic because people broke all the time in combat, especially the lower level troops like Ashigaru and stuff. They broke all the time. That was their whole point. Lead them to the machine and let them.
So you're absolutely right.
Until they break.
There's definitely a balance between the realism and the fantasy of L5R.
Mm-hmm.
There is there's a lot of realism here, and then there's a lot of fantasy here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got to play test is what we got to do. We got to see where we are, and everybody's been yelling at us, play test this, play test this, play test this, play test this, play test this. And I wanted to make sure I got these mob rules down before we did this next week.
Jumping into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, but I think I don't think that this is gonna be really an issue.
You just reminded me of Shogun Total War. I used to play the frick out of that game so much.
I still play the shit out of that game to this day.
The enemy are running like stuck pigs. That's what they would say in it. But yeah, our men are running from the battlefield. Shameful display. Yes. Well, if you were there on the battlefield with them, they wouldn't be doing that now, would they?
Mm-hmm. What a shameful display.
They're running like stuck pigs. I heard that so many times. It was just like, this is a great insult. Stuck pigs. And then I started calling swords pig stickers.
Yeah, I remember that.
Tarek knows. I would be like, get him with your pig sticker. Get him with
It worked pretty well.
It was a very funny, very cool thing to say.
Yeah, it's evocative. Nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. When we're playing a game and,
it definitely evokes the feelings of
and suddenly people think about it for a second and then they're reviled for a moment. Like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
This sword is for honorable combat.
Not pig sticking. They did check the sharpness of swords against thicknesses of bodies. How many bodies the sword would cut through.
So anything else we need to put into these one, mob rules, minion groups, and two, just general skirmish battle rules?
I think how to create a minion profile rules is probably pretty important.
We
have an example one, but expanding on that to make it easier for GMs will probably be a good thing to work on. We don't have to do it right here in this call, but we should probably work on how to define a adversary, how to define a minion, and ways to make those more various.
So
right?
You want me to write, huh?
Unless you want to just say, look at the NPCs in the book and use those minions for minion groups and use adversaries for adversary group adversaries in your game. And we're not changing those rules very much. Just change their abilities to be something they have to spend to enact, and then the player tries to check against that. That's a kind of a bolted on way of doing it, but we could make that work probably.
Oh, maybe you can give mobs of Ashigaru a bonus, since that's kind of their whole thing. Maybe since they're trained and experienced troops, they get some kind of bonus. I just kind of copied and pasted their ability from the main book. When Ashigaru provides assistance, that character gets +1 success if a PC if a
Or
PC
increases the TN
or
to
increases the
stop them
TN by one
if
to
it's an
stop them
NPC.
if they're an NPC. So I kind of like reverse that. So this is weird because how does assistance work? Oh my god, how does assistance work? Oh my god, if we're doing
Well, I imagine like if you have a mob of Ashigaru, this isn't just one guy anymore, right? This is
there should be an extra ability for a minion that turns them into a mob and how they work in a mob.
yeah.
You're oh my goodness. That's great. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually pretty choice. I like that. Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Absolutely. Um you can have mobs of adversaries. No. I think that takes away from the point of the adversary. Once they become a mob or a group or a squad, they've been demoted to minions.
Yeah, exactly.
An adversary is like supposed to be a singular threat, like something that you see and you go.
Especially considering their ranks, like their conflict and their like conflict rankings and their rings tend to be far and away above the likeness of a minion NPC.
Yeah.
So there, like, if you have a mob of like elite samurai NPCs that are adversaries, or a mob of trolls, I mean, you could do that, but that is a very formidable force that I think you'd be killing your PCs, because they would stand against your PCs very easily as an individual. So a mob of them is even more terrifying. Like, unless you're doing mass battle, I think that is a step too far for skirmishes.
Well, I think since minions just go down with one hit, we were like, how does armor work into that? Why does that matter? Why does
Why does armor? Well, because if you have a minion that's better armored, maybe they don't take as much damage.
Minions take one hit and they're gone.
Yeah, but if you have well, no. So I don't think the armor item makes a difference. I think if you want to have a minion group that is heavily armored, quote unquote, they have an ability that allows them to reduce the damage that they take by one on an attack.
I still think the armor matters, because like if you only do 1 point of damage and they have Ashigaru armor and it reduces it by 2, you don't kill any of the minions. You don't kill that one minion. Yeah. You got to do at least that 3 points, and once you do that one solid point of damage, it goes through. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And then every bonus success after that, every extra damage after that,
gets another
kill
minion.
An extra one.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's fair. You have to breach the base damage rating or threshold for them to get the damage. I think that's fair.
Yes. So in a mob, armor is only counted once versus an entire mob. Yep. Not for every minion. It's only counted once.
I think that fits.
Yeah. That's an important rule. Rule.
And then still use the weapon profile.
A mob of samurai is a cohort. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once we get there, exactly. We're in mass battle.
Now you're in mass battle territory. Yeah. I 100% agree. I'm seeing some fun stuff that could happen with mob abilities. Hold your ground for every 2 mob members that spend their action on this. Raise TN of hitting allies by 1. Yeah, exactly. That's the beauty of this kind of system, is that it simplifies it down so that you can make little abilities for your mobs that are synergistic with each other. If you want to show that they have good unit cohesion, give them an ability that lets them bolster each other. Give them an ability that lets them focus down on having smaller coordinated units, or large, big, massive blobs that move through the skirmish.
And here you don't have to limit it to 6 because we're not adding +1 or +1 to your ring for every single minion. It goes up. The rank goes up by 1 for every doubling of the number of members in the group. So when you go from 1 minion to 2 minions, you get +1. When you go from 2 minions to 4 minions, you get +1. When you go from 4 minions to 8 minions, you get +1. So if a guy comes in, like, then Ashigaru has a combat of, what do they got? A combat of 2. And if there's 8 of them, right, that brings it up by how many?
Combat of 5. They go from 2 to 3 at 2, 2 to 4 at 4, and 2 to 5 at 8.
At 8.
Right.
And if
that 5 is still the TN you have to resist, and then you take the damage from that attack, right?
And then what if
it's still just the one profile of damage? It's
but
not
if you
everybody attacks.
You come in and hit them and have and do a bunch of damage, have a bunch of successes and do a bunch of damage to them. You could bring them down to having that attack of 5 go to 4, go to 3 real fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can take out multiple guys with one hit.
Mm-hmm. It makes it feel a lot more Chanbara. I love it. I love that feeling of like, yeah, I'm a fucking Hida. I'm gonna roll in here with my giant hammer and bash 3 of these guys, and they're gonna go fucking flying, and they're gone. Like, that's it.
That's it. That's freaking it.
Yeah.
Got a mob of Maho users. Let them kill off their own member to activate a Maho technique.
Exactly.
One sacrifice for every TN of the ability.
Yeah. They just stab one of their friends and fucking Oni shows up. Yeah, exactly.
What happened? We were fighting this group of Maho Tsukai, and suddenly half of them died, and now there's an Oni.
Yeah, we need to run.
They didn't have an adversary at first, but now they do.
The Oni is still eating them, so we have some time, but we need to start moving.
Okay, it's been an hour. I think we're done for this.
I think we're good here. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for chatting. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for all of the things that you do. Even if we disagree, we still take everything you say very seriously, and we will continue to really think about what you people are saying, what you guys, our fans and the guys who want to be involved. We think about what you're saying, and we're very thoughtful. At least I try. So thank you for everything.
Try to be receptive.
Possible. Yeah. Thanks for everything. I guess we're gonna do Shadow Empire tonight. By the way, when Tarek said one side is the Dokugero and one side is the Boseki, these are gangs that I created for Shadow Empire. And now
I wanted to throw them in there.
Tarek's just they're canon.
they're canon for us, baby.
They're so good. They're great. They're a great addition to L5R, and I don't understand why they're not.
Yeah, exactly. Tell L5R, get on it.
Yeah,
he's a faction.
Oh, pardon me. So, from all of us, Tarek, my name is Corey. Go roll some dice.